And Summer.
Get resourced every Friday at 12 p.m. Catch us live on YouTube. Love for you guys to watch us on YouTube because we're aiming to get some more viewers. That helps us get more data so that YouTube knows who to push the content to. And so if you're watching us on Facebook, anywhere, see if you can watch us on YouTube. We'd love for your support around that. And also to get up to 500 subscribers. Where we're at right now, 352.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. Yeah. So we just want to plug that in at the beginning. So welcome everybody. Get a resource where we chat about everything around reconnecting, resourcing back to self, source, and others. And we always love to open it up with what's alive in you today, Summer.
Uh, Feeling a little buzzy, like high energy, kind of doing a lot of things, not my preferred body sensation. So that's what's alive in me, but also alive with potential, with people. I think really wanting this type of information, people waking up, so to speak, to new ways of relating that is compassionate and truly empathic, changing our way of being that really aligns with who I think we are as a species.
Hmm.
So excited and a sense of a little bit of sense of urgency or quickening, like the pace is picking up. That's what's alive. How about you? What's going on for
Hmm.
you?
What's alive in me is this nourishment of like learning and
Mm.
depth and deepness and concepts that I thought I knew, though I'm getting to know on a deeper level. And that's exciting because it meets my need for growth, depth, expansion. And at the end of it all, it's like this integration of like me, a
Mm.
pathway to wholeness for myself. Yeah. Appreciation for the human experience as my mind starts to make sense of my inner world and how I came to be. And with that gives me compassion and grace naturally.
Yeah, we haven't been taught how our inner workings really work, do we? We're diagnosed and
Mm.
labeled, um, and starting in school grade, we're competing, comparing ourselves to others. And it takes us away from relating. We become robots, regurgitating information, eh, thinking things are right and wrong. And I appreciate what you said because as we do our classes and relate to our clients and people, I learned so much about myself as a human being. Uh, and it just blows my mind how incredibly beautiful life is
Mm.
as we reconnect to who we really are, not what we've been taught who we are. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I got chills because it's true freedom for me is
Mm,
when I come back to myself, when I get to know myself, when I begin the work of freeing myself from mental programming,
mhm,
emotional programming that wasn't given to me, but I've adopted in my environment that I grew up in. And this environment I grew up in created this idea that I shouldn't trust what I'm feeling. I shouldn't trust what's happening in my body, that I didn't have needs, that I shouldn't talk back or disappoint. And it's these stories that run me to belong in my family system for my survival. But what I've learned is that has eroded my sense of self, my trust in myself, my respect in myself. Because if you're telling me to not trust my emotions, to stuff it away, or when I ask for my needs to be met and they're neglected, they're ignored, or it's repeated back, hey, you should be happy with what you have. That tells me that there's a part of me that doesn't belong, that it shouldn't be here.
Mhm.
And because of that, I've fragmented myself, compartmentalized myself, where there's parts of me that I don't accept, I don't love, that I'm ashamed of. And of course, that naturally erodes how I view me. Because you're telling me the translation is my feelings don't matter, my needs don't matter, therefore a part of me doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then we make it into an enemy we have to fight. Um, we try to fix it, make it go away as if emotions are this malfunctioning part of us. It's as if we treat like everything else. We have to be efficient. We have to work. We have to be a machine. Um, and it's as if we're malfunctional versus the system that thinks that labels are more factual and real than the feelings and the energy in our body itself. Whereas this energetic system, this electromagnetic reality of our body, we measure it with MRIs and EKGs. Our heart is measured by a MRI. No, sorry. Our brain waves are measured by an MRI and our heart EKGs. It's an electromagnetic system. We know this. Yet we try to override it with our mental thinking versus actually paying attention to the energy that's moving through us in real time. But then English treats this energy and decides to diagnose it as anxiety, depression, or disorder or an imbalance as if it is. And you know what? I think it's actually normal to feel angry or depressed about a system of education that teaches us what you just talked about, telling us that something's wrong with us and trying to disassociate, disengage from a part of us that is natural. That is a travesty, I think, in
Hmm.
our reality of how we've been educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much onus on what that label means to me, eh?
Mm.
And my interpretation of what it means to be broken or ADHD or whatever labels that I put on myself that causes me to believe that I should behave that certain way. It's as if I act of what it means to be a Canadian or an Asian man, and I start living out these particular stereotypes based on what my culture, what other people think I should be doing or behaving, rather than cultivating presence within myself, being with my internal reality, and then responding from that place rather than a mental construct, a definition that can be changed. For example, what does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
If I outsource that question to culture, then culture dictates what it means for me to be a man. And so it tells me who I should be, how I should behave, how I should act. And if I fit that, I call it the man box, then I earn the privileges that come with it. But at the same time, of how easy those privileges can be given to me, it can be easily given or taken away when I don't fit the man box, so to speak. So essentially, I've outsourced my freedom to a definition, to a label that is defined by people outside of me, not by me. And so when
Right.
I go inwards, I define who I am based on my inner resonance.
Right. And the irony of the inner resonance piece. and turning inward is that it's far more reliable than culture that's constantly changing and deciding what's popular at any given time. Um, and our the language our bodies speak, because English, as we talked about in one of our past episodes, its primary question is what's that thing? We're always objectifying things as outside of us, not paying attention to, well, what's my relationship? What's my relationship to that feeling in my body? What's that relationship to that person? What's my relationship to this symptom in my body? Do we hate it? Do we despise it? Do we try to get rid of it? Is it an enemy? Or are we listening? And that's where I believe like our bodies speak this very ancient language. We talked about this too, the pre-verbal language, the a priori language of this electromagnetic system that we're living in. It's rhythmic. Our heartbeats are the symptoms. There's usually a throbbing. There's so many elements to how energy moves, and we have such a lack of language to describe what's actually going on in our body, the energetic system of it. Yet the body reports to us what's actually going on, where energy is flowing, where it's constricting, where a boundary's been crossed, where our truth is suppressed. When people get lumps in their throat, they don't know how to speak what they're really feeling because we've been told, oh, that's silly. Oh, you're exaggerating. Don't be a cryberry, baby. Boys don't cry. There's so many ways that we've been tricked into appeasing external authority rather than listening to our inner compass and our guide that, as you say, gives us the freedom we're looking for in our lives.
Yeah. And kind of being on the path of building the muscle for myself, of learning the language to make sense of my inner reality. It seems so simple now, though at the time when I started, it was hard because I was trained to go into my head all the time, to analyze what was happening, to go into story, to even try to fix it or get rid of it because maybe it's something I'm uncomfortable with or I haven't learned to be with.
That's right. Hmm.
And so when it becomes a muscle where I can start practicing of how to name what's happening in my inner experience by even noting like right now I feel there's a tenseness right below my chest here.
Mm.
Like just naming the sensations. I might not have a vocabulary for it to begin with, but the more I practice it, I can come up with like, oh, I feel heat or cold or constriction or expansion or spaciousness. These descriptive words, right? That describe textures.
Yeah, the nuances of feeling, the orchestra that goes on in our body. Most of us have good, bad, sad, mad. And of course,
Yeah.
in an orchestra, when you only have four instruments, it doesn't sound very harmonious, and our body has so many more nuances to it. I like to say,
Mhm.
because people always say, well, feelings aren't facts, right? I like to say they are actually they are. They're the true navigation system,
Mm.
not psychological opinions, not what we might describe as character flaws or diagnoses, but energetic facts.
Yeah. And there's a distinction with that. And I get where that story comes from, where
Which story?
feelings aren't facts.
Oh,
Feelings aren't facts. And to preface it is that we're human. You and I, we have feelings and emotions for a reason, right? Those that don't have feeling emotion maybe will label as a psychopath or a sociopath. Though for most of us as human beings, we're given this tool, this insight I call internal GPS, as another form of data to get to know myself. And the story that says feelings aren't facts, there's a distinction because in our work, we were able to distinguish between what we call the primary emotion and the secondary charge,
mhm.
where there's an initial hit in my nervous system that I feel a certain way. And then when I make up a story about it, that can create a secondary charge or secondary emotion where people typically judge, oh, you're being run by your emotions right now. You're letting your emotions control you here. When this idea where I start ruminating and I start going down a negative spiral, that's when a lot of people would judge that. And what they would judge is essentially a label is victimhood. I'm in my emotions, I'm letting that run me.
Essentially,
And
when
it's
we're
being
triggered.
run when we're triggered. Yeah. A story is fueling that over and over again. And what we're talking about is not skipping that step of believing the story. But what's before that story?
Yeah, it happens so fast, right? You say
Mhm.
something that's cutting, I'm hurt, I feel emotional, and all of a sudden I'm like, ah, I don't feel worthy and he doesn't love me. I'm angry now and I'm going to, whatever it is. And it happens so quickly. That vulnerable inside of us, a protector part of ourself comes up. And that's when we tend to get into these toxic
Mhm.
relationship patterns and things. And we don't realize, oh, I have to backtrack enough to feel safe. In an IFS terms, return to the exile of the part of us that's been put in, like you said, the man box, put in a box, put in these little containers or boundaries around ourselves to keep us safe. The irony is that what we perceive as safe doesn't actually get our needs met,
Mm.
unfortunately, as adults. And so starting to take down the inner walls so that we can create what we call boundaries as doorways, because a lot of us are talking about boundaries. Oh, that's your problem. You go away. This is my line in the sand. Don't cross this. Versus, okay, how do I begin to relate to you in a way that is life giving, that is clear and open without being abrasive and disconnective? And I think
Mhm.
this is the art of what we're learning to develop in our next stage of evolution is
Mhm.
how we're going to allow each other to ask the question, well, what's alive in you, and how can we really trust other people's sense of themselves rather than needing to fix them as if there's something wrong, allowing them to learn their own inner navigation systems
Mm.
by inviting them, like you said, what's that texture, what's that feeling, and allowing
Yeah.
there's a lot of, for me, a lot of breath techniques out there,
Mm.
um, that speed up the pace or slow down whatever it is. But what if we just made space for feeling? Even people that go into panic attacks, as I support them through that, their breath might speed up, but as they observe, like you said, um, feelings as we go into story. But if we can separate ourselves from the story and start to have this objective observer, if we're not blended or part of the experience, we're like, oh, this is curious. As we're no longer judging it or putting labels on it, the energy starts to move again. It goes towards life serving energy. It's amazing how quickly our symptoms in our body or our pain or our panic just subsides.
Mm.
Because what I notice about panic attacks or people in anxiety is they're like, oh no, there's something's wrong. There's the psychological diagnosis going on. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what's going on. And it's that themselves, as the protectors become alive in IFS terms, creates the physical symptoms, the judgment itself, versus just observing it as a type of energy, which allows it the freedom to move, because energy is always moving until we stop it through our mental diagnoses and judgments. It's the irony of our world today.
Mm. Yeah, there was a lot there, for me. Um, yeah, and speaking to that, you know, feelings aren't facts, it's like it makes sense because if I tell a story is a perception and I could be telling a lie, right? I could be making up things based on my past experiences and limiting beliefs. And therefore, people judge it because I'm making up a story and then it leads me to feel a certain way. And so this requires me to build the awareness to be with myself and with support from others because I learned in my journey to create space for my sacred self. In my journey, I needed to have that sacred space to be with other people where
Mm,
they, through their experience, their modeling, their permission, gave me permission to be with myself in that same way where I was there for them. Because I didn't learn this. And I get why I would set a boundary of like, don't cross this. It comes from a place of being out of control. And when I don't know myself or trust myself and my inner knowing, then I believe everything out there is the cause and the impact for how I feel. It means that I have no control over that. So what I'm going to do is stop, stay away from me, cut you out. And we
mhm,
call that the emotional obnoxiousness, right? The boundaries as a wall. But for me to then approach boundaries as a doorway, it starts with building my first relationship, which is the relationship with myself, to know what is it that I want? What is it that I need? What am I actually feeling?
yeah,
And when I can reconcile that within myself, then I can approach boundaries as a doorway
mhm,
because I'm clear on what I need and I can make that request versus, oh, you're a danger to me because I'm feeling something off. I have no control over it because I have no awareness or experience or muscle to be with that. Then I'm going to blame the outside that's
that's right,
causing
yeah.
that.
Yeah, the irony is that safety comes from within.
Yeah.
Trusting our own sensations, our own perceptual realities. And if we don't feel safe within, then we have to block everybody else out because we don't trust our responses anymore. We're only reacting versus having this spaciousness to take the energy in, feel it, and allow it to move through us. And this is where I know empaths, they talk about, okay, well, I'm taking on other people's energy. And, that's not mine, that's theirs. And I'm carrying it for them. And it's a tricky perceptual reality to have empathic enmeshment versus empowered empathy or embodied empathy, where you can have the witness and allow energy to move versus taking it on. Because if you are, you're unconsciously identifying with it. Some part of you recognizes it and doesn't allow you to move it through you. And this is where, for those of us who have been drawn to the helping field from a real place of desiring to make the world a better place, as feelings come into our body, we don't know what to do with it. We don't trust them. And we create these walls to our own internal reality. It's exhausting. It's adrenal fatigue. It's burnout. It's all of those things because containing energy that wants to move is just so exhausting. And so when you start to approach things energetically, being able to describe the sensations and sitting with it as the observer, it releases energy. It doesn't matter if you're suicidal, it doesn't matter how much negative energy it is. If you can move out of the way and observe it, it releases all of that pent up energy in a, what you might call a positive way. It releases energy towards a life giving direction, out of the depression, out of the anxiety, because we're no longer judging it. We're not trying to contain it or diagnose it or label it. We're just allowing it to move. And this is reminding me of, because There's so much more people, ADHD and depression, so many kids these days on anxiety medications and things like that, and I believe it's because we've evolved and we're way more sensitive to energy, and we're getting lots more diagnosis because if people are truly in tune with their own inner compasses and can really feel what's going on, people don't like the world we're living in. There's financial inequities, there's violence, there's judgments. There's so many things that don't actually align with the true heart of a human being in the world. And so our language creates this separation between what we know to be true and the language that we speak. And so our work is bridging that gap so that we can start communicating and relating from that place of um, true relationship, energetic resonance, attunement to others. And this is where we can allow ourselves to be in another's experience, to be with, which by the way, and I don't know if this is going to go on a side, but I have some suicide side training and people get suicide. They go, oh no, oh no, we have to fix that. That's terrible. Oh no. And it's the judgment that makes it painful for somebody. If you can just sit with them, people feel so alone in this world. And as others are able to open up this energetic space to say, I'm going to share my humanness with you, and we no longer feel alone, we belong, we feel normal. It's everything, really, for our well being.
Yeah. Yeah. How can we start treating ourselves with reverence and honor?
Mm,
Even my past, like running away from the fear of feeling, because there's so many stories around that, or I shouldn't feel pain. I shouldn't look at what I'm ashamed of because that makes me weak. And there's a lot of barriers to that because I had this mental programming that prevented me from getting in tune with myself. But once I had a safe space from others, not judging me, which is totally different than my family dynamic growing up, I received the permission to start being with it. And then I received the gifts from it, the wisdom from it. And it started to make sense that in order for me to be happy, genuinely happy, and have peace of mind, is for me to go inwards and reconcile the inner reality, my inner kingdom, reparent myself, be the king for me and what's happening within me. Right. And this calls for this quality of presence that is so rich and nourishing that for me it can be so easy to like be accountable to others because in a way I care what they think of me or
mm,
I just want to follow through. So sort of like if I were to give presents to someone else I love, yeah, I see how nourishing and generative that is. And so then maybe perhaps I can give that presence to myself, yeah, or someone else hold that presence for me to make sense of things without that judgment piece and start putting pieces back together. Yeah. I noticed there's a comment.
mhm,
It didn't show up on a restream, but it showed up in our Facebook group. I see that Christina says, I've been alone every day for over a month. I don't
mhm,
leave my house. Now I know just how much thoughts, stories, emotions are directly connected to every fiber of ourselves. In pain, I want to fix it. I can't live like this. I have to get past the feeling of out of control. Sometimes I can. First, I have to shut my mind down, sitting until there's nothing I'm thinking about. It's pure bliss. And I can do
mhm.
it. Thank you for sharing, Christine.
Yeah, the mind will take us down a lot of rabbit holes, whereas presence in the body and being in the present moment we return to peace.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, we've been taught to think into the past or the future, what might happen, what could happen, versus just breathing. And I always use this because Einstein was so brilliant. Energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. And so as we are present to ourselves, universal law takes over. The energy transforms itself. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to fix ourselves. We don't have to help others either. We allow this body to be the conduit to source itself.
Hmm.
A plant sprouts up from the earth. How do you explain that it does that? How does it grow into a tree? There's already a blueprint in there. Our DNA is a blueprint for how we're going to grow, both physically but also emotionally and spiritually. And we're stunted as a species in more of a uh, teenage type mentality because of how we've tried to fit ourselves in boxes. And we are so far beyond that. And as we get out of the judgment, I believe we're just going to take these massive leaps in this age of Aquarius and this quickening as we're learning how to come back to remembering, which means, as you said, Dre, remember to put back together again, to become whole. We've been so fractured through our mental diagnoses and labels that we've
Mhm.
compartmentalized so many things.
Right. When I've been told there's something wrong with me, that I shouldn't feel this way, like the finger wagging of these labels and judgments that cause me to fracture myself because my inherent need is to belong and to be accepted by you, right? By my caretakers, by my parents, by authority, in a way. Because
Hmm.
in a way, I'm a child. There's parts of me that are childlike that just wants to be loved, and I'm willing to sacrifice who I am to be loved. And now as an adult, I'm like, no, I'm not playing that game anymore because I know what prices it pays. As an adult, I fall into dysfunctional relationships. I'm not happy, right? I'm reaching adrenal fatigue or burnout. There's prices of paying of not being myself. It turns up as hail ailments, right? Or hail ailments. I'm in health. Yeah, you've been hailed. Yeah, yeah. You get hailed on. It's like, no, man, I don't want to be held on anymore. And now I can find a place where I can be with others that have realized this too and are going on the same journey as I am. And isn't that amazing? Because I still want to belong. I still want to be accepted. And I want to value that. I want to appreciate that human part of myself, right? To be vulnerable with it. It's yeah, I do want to belong. No, can I belong with people that also can accept me for who I am? Heck yeah, I can have both. To be authentic and belong at the same time? Heck yeah. Not one or the other.
Yeah, we're moving into this place where we belong because we're authentic, because we can be present, because we can name what's going on in our bodies at that time, to name our vulnerability. And when we do, we feel so safe because we're connected to the power that we were born with again.
And I feel alive. I
Hmm.
feel hopeful. I feel the new earth being here in the now, that we can co-create, live our authentic truth, contribute with our passions, right? I want to be in a place where it values presence. That presence actually leads to more productivity, better, effective productivity because I'm rested, I'm clear, not this go mentality that comes from a place of not being good enough or I'm shamed. So, what I'm putting out there is permission for us to rest. I'm telling that to myself, permission for me to rest, take
Yeah.
time to be with myself. Even the idea of like a weekend, you know, if you think about the word weekend, it means you're weakened by the end
No.
of it. and during the week, you're weak. The wordplay is in that, hey? So it's like, why do we have Saturday, Sunday just to rest? Why not 3 days? Why not 4 days out of the week or 5 days out of the week? And contribute from a place of inspiration from my life force. When I'm trusted to know that I'm gifted, that I'm talented, that I am smart in my own way, that I'm not like you because I'm me. And I get to contribute to the world while I'm here because my soul arrived here for a purpose. Now that's life force. That tells me I'm needed, I can be useful, and I want to make an impact. What a beautiful world, isn't it? When I get to have presence with myself and when others are doing that, just like siestas in the world. When you're having a siesta and when the culture accepts that, it's like, hey, we get to chill and relax. It doesn't have to be all serious and work all the time. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm sharing this. That's why I want to plant and water the seed more. Because as I speak about this and you take that on, you're also giving me permission to rest and be with myself and be real and belong. And that's how we change the world. That's how I change the world, is how I show up for myself. Hey, with that compassion and that grace.
mhm. Yeah, and having our own internal rhythms return to us rather than these strict outside times. And that's one reason I prefer time windows. This be punctual, 12 o'clock. It's like, it's actually very stressful on the nervous system. So I encourage people to adapt. I'll be there between 12 and 12:15. So the nervous system isn't so ratched up because the soul doesn't work on a clock. And this whole, I'm going to go on a tangent here. Daylight savings throws us off our circadian rhythms. The new 12-month calendar, when there used to be 13 according to the moons, it's all pulled us away from our natural innate rhythms. We become very good workers, very good slaves in a system of economic scale um, when we do that. And I think we're getting back to, there's so many people I know who want community, who want land, who want to build their own food and their own stuff and get back to a place that's simpler without the red tape. Man, you know how much time we spend registering children and vehicles and things and whatever for the authorities when we could just freaking live? Yeah. Ugh. It's so exhausting. It is so mind numbing and so completely unnecessary.
Yeah, man made tape to just drain my energy. Like,
Yeah.
why does it have to be so complicated? It doesn't have to be. Though my mind can create work out of thin air, right? And make things over complicated and it really is. And create jobs out of thin air just to fill up bureaucratic seats. But really it's such a life force drain to
It
deal
is.
with that kind of stuff, isn't it? And it's all man-made. Like
Hmm.
nature doesn't have red tape in a way.
No.
Do you need a passport to nature if you're a bird? Like you just fly anywhere. Like what the heck have we created?
Oh, yeah,
I
it's pretty
created the
big.
system of control. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Uh,
I see a comment from Christine here. Yeah, a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. I think we have to unlearn to learn. Yes, yes. To unlearn, truly. I mean, the education system was built during the Industrial Revolution to build workers. It came from
1934,
the
Rockefeller. Hmm.
Rockefeller Foundation, and it hasn't changed that much since, right? Now it's a business. You know, everything is driven by dollars on the paper. So what are their intentions, really?
To teach us to go to work for them is what that is. They don't teach us entrepreneurship. They don't teach us what our feelings and needs are. No, no, no. It's to get grades. It's to compare and contrast so they work harder than anybody else. That's what it's for. To build empires. All those games, Monopoly and Risk, those games are the games we're playing in real life. Takeover. How much can we get? It's greed based. I mean, how much do we really need, really? And that's fear and control based again, but
Yeah, and that's the natural part of me because I do see that part of me, right? It's as if the world's being run by unhealed children in a way, or wounded children in a way. Because yeah, that part of me
no,
to
that
control.
that is the thing. Not in a way. Uh-uh.
You know, we're just triggering each other. We lack the skills, right? We're being run through fear and survival strategies, and I get it. It's like the rat race, right? It's easy for me to be in rat race, and it's like, how can I stop playing this rat race game and find the
Right,
exit, right? Take the path
right.
less traveled
Yeah.
than the beaten
Because
path.
career, speaking of words, you know where career comes from?
No.
Comes from careening around a racetrack.
Oh, yeah,
Ah.
and sure, the one with retire.
Oh, well, retire me. Yeah. To retire means to go to sleep again.
Yeah, look, tire, retire. You're tiring yourself.
Yeah, rather than to re-inspire, it's such a travesty when there's no meaning in life that we stop going to work to our jobs, that we acquire things or we own land or we watch TV. Like, wow, is it there's so much more that our life server and energy could be doing if we were in relationship to others. Ah,
Yeah, and I also wanna say it doesn't have to be all serious and deep and heavy and like, no, it's like the more I cultivate presence, the more I'm enriched by it, the more I can laugh at life. Not laugh as a distraction, to not as
no.
an avoidance, but to see the play in it. To see that, wow, this is an interesting world right now. I can laugh at my failures. I can laugh at the trauma that I went through. Eventually, when I do enough work with it, it's like, huh, wow,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
that's
hilarious. I actually
the yeah, that's the jester within us, the archetype of the trickster, where we can poke fun at life. We can play pranks on each other. We can laugh and play and dance. And that's something I'm wanting to bring more online within myself. Because yeah, deep work can be serious at times for myself and be just like all in the muck in the mud, right? Like, oh, though also to approach it with this fun and playfulness and dance with it too, and just this release of energy. Because there's so much out there, right, that I can just be sucked into.
yeah.
What I'm saying is, if we can create space to be with yourself, to be with myself, everything starts to slow down and I can start cultivating a sense of peace and happiness and aliveness within myself. And then I can decide, you know what? I'm going to doom scroll. Why not? Right? It doesn't have to be serious and doing all the work all the time. I still doom scroll. I love YouTube. I love checking out wrestling videos. I'm a big WWF fan, and I love to look back in the past and nostalgia, the Ultimate Warrior, The Rock, and just kind of relive those moments and laugh again, And yeah, laughter is such great medicine. But I'm consciously choosing to do so rather than using it to like numb myself or distract myself. I know I'm doom scrolling and I'm like, I'm giving myself that gift and break.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to keep doing to do. We can you know, I mean, to me doom scrolling is like when I go shopping, not in an addictive way, but oh, look at the beauty of things and the color and the inspiration that comes from people's creativity and um you like WWF. I think it's very hilarious, and I know you call it like the masculine what do you call it?
Yeah, it's a male soap opera.
Yeah, male soap opera, right. I mean, it's some of the childish, what I might judge to be childish stuff is just it is pretty funny. It's like, oh my goodness. And if we can laugh, because the universe and life is funny. And this is where I think we should all be doing improv and dancing and moving and improv and laughing at ourselves more and more, because once you get into the universe and how this stuff works, it has a sense of humor. It's like at the end of it, I can't believe I thought that the world was so devastating and wrong and whatever, and that I fell into all of those myths and beliefs and traps, and I just kept myself there. Like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have this video of mine of this one person, like, videotaping his car freshly washed, and then a couple birds shat
Yeah,
on it.
I remember that one. Yeah, I think that's the irony. We want our lives to be so perfect, and we're taking the perfect picture so it all looks good from the outside, and then yeah, the birds come along and shit all over it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
to be able to, like, laugh at myself, right? To laugh at ourselves, to just poke fun of it. Yeah. Mm,
Presence and fun, laughter. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember one thing that's been funny for you in the last little while?
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be quite a bit of laughter as I shared with you. Yeah. Um, there's nothing that's popping out for me
Well,
at the moment.
there's one this morning.
Oh, yeah, right.
I was
Okay,
just
so I was like, okay, I'll share it, okay?
okay. Sure, go ahead.
So, I have a story in my head that Summer's still sleeping, at the time, and I decided to go downstairs to go into the living room to grab a charger, right? And when I was going downstairs, it was super quiet. I just assumed that she was sleeping still. And so then when I turned around and walked, I started just walking down the hallway and I jumped. I'm like, oh, and I got shocked by it. I don't know. I thought that was
By
funny.
me, right? Because I was
Yeah.
standing there. I was just walking along, coming to greet you in the morning. And you like we're freaked out.
I got startled for sure.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Like, I thought you were sleeping, right? I had this, again, I had an expectation and it didn't meet my reality. And so, yeah, all of a sudden you just appeared out of nowhere. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty scared. Hyper vigilant in there. All right. How are we gonna wrap this up today?
Yeah.
Our internal GPS. Feelings are actually facts. Ooh, isn't that a twist of fate? Um,
Yeah. And presence, a big piece of that is just the invitation to start to go inwards, to get to know yourself. Yeah. And when you can do that with others that are also doing that, then it's like all the better, right? You're not alone in this. There's plenty of people also doing this work too. And that's a sign where I'm like, I'm seeing the world changing and elevating is when I start seeing everyone become a coach. I'm starting to seeing that become a sex therapist in 90 days, like, I mean, cool. People are wanting it, right? People are wanting to do the work for themselves, and that's a great sign. That's a great sign because I also see people publishing more books or coming into like a book where there's many different authors sharing their story. That's beautiful because everybody has their own healing journey, and it's healing for someone else that can come across with it, right? Because we're mirrors for each other, right?
yeah.
And that's part of the global healing that's happening. That's a great
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, to
You know,
share our humanness instead of hiding it as if we are
yes.
some shameful leech underneath a rock or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
because everything is relationships. Everything that I do, even with work, right? Yeah, there's some nuances with like engineering and construction. There's some theory, some mathematics involved, and data. Though I need people to build things, I still got to relate with other people, right? And so the more I show up for myself, the more I can show up at work more effective, more productive, more resourced, and that can also impact the people there too as well. And that's how
Yeah,
we shift the world and change the world is it starts with us. And that
it
gives me so
does.
much power because now I'm like, that's possible. You're telling me all I just got to do and do working within myself? Yeah, it's simple as that. I don't have to worry about this or that or what's happening out there. If I can associate with myself with causes that are really important to me, great, right? When everybody can step up in that way, it's light work for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, the inner architecture is so important and creates more stability in the outer world. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm. So if you're listening, please follow us on YouTube so that we can get this type of information out. And if you're on Facebook, join us on our Get Resourced group for conscious co-creating relationships. If you want to join us in this type of education, we have monthly workshops. We have information in a community that is learning to get resourced to themselves,
Yeah.
others,
And
vice
speaking
versa.
of workshop, we have one upcoming on Monday, Tuesday. It's called the Ultimate Relationship Event. It's free, it's online, it's for couples or those individuals in relationships or those wanting to mindfully prepare for the next one. We invite you into this container. And if you want more information about what it is, if I were to summarize it, is that we'll be sharing with you some effective communication strategies, as well as a piece that's missing when people are teaching about communication and why it typically fails and goes sideways. So we'll be sharing that secret with you. If you want more information about it, send myself a DM, Summer a DM, just throw a message and comment. We'll be able to see it.
Till next
All
week.
right. Yeah, till next week. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. See you next week. Ciao.